Well, the town hall in Salem audiences know this man very well. Former colleague and now big shot at the White House, Sebastian Gorka. What is the full title? Because I never do well with titles. Special assistant to the...
No, God, he screwed it up again.
See, I
told him literally 90 seconds ago, and O'Connor can't get it right. Is it, unbelievable. It's complicated. People think I get 2 paychecks because I've got 2 titles. No. In the White House, there are ranks and job titles. So my rank is Deputy Assistant to the President, or DAP if you're in government.
He's a DAP.
I'm a DAP.
He's a DAP.
And then my title, my actual job, is Senior Director for Counterterrorism in the National Security Council.
So in other words, jihadis are peeing their pants right now.
No, they're dead.
Oh, it's even
You can't pee your pants if you're turned into red mist by our Tier 1 guys.
Yeah, what's with the Houthis? If there are any, are they still trying to sort of poke and?
Yes, they are.
I don't think actually. Before you even get into it, because this was underreported during the Biden administration.
Unbelievable.
The kind of attacks that are because of my connection with the Naval Academy, one of our young officers who had just commissioned was on the Stockdale. Stockdale was under fire almost
Let me give you the
stats.
This is what the mainstream legacy lying media will never, ever, ever tell you. So in the last 2 years, U.S. ships have been fired on 147 times. And I don't mean some guy plinking with a 22 from the shore. Yeah. I mean UAVs. I mean missiles. I mean ballistic missiles. Okay? From a terrorist group that is funded, that is supported by Iran. A U.S. flagged vessel has not been able to pass through that strait on the way to the Suez Canal unmolested for 18 months, Larry. Weird how that doesn't make it into CNN. Strange, right?
Yeah, it is amazing, isn't it?
And when we told the president these figures a month ago, he was incensed because freedom of navigable waterways is essential for a vibrant economy, American or otherwise. And he said, sort it out. They told Pete Hegseth, get it done, and that's what we're doing.
Well, what does the Mideast have to do with a strong economy, a world economy? Come on, Seth. But they're still trying, and of course they are funded and supported by Iran. And I know that we're all walking and chewing gum at the same time around here. But as these discussions go with Iran right now, I would be uneasy to even sit down with them, let alone put ourselves in a position where we're going to trust, even if there is trust and verify.
Well, let's flip that. And how are they thinking? I mean, think about it. We have 2 battle carrier groups, Mr. Naval Academy.
Yes, I know.
2 battle carrier groups in the region. Yeah. Not only that, and I can talk about this because my boss, Mike Waltz, the first ever Green Beret to be National Security Advisor, has revealed elements of the letter to the Supreme Leader in Tehran. There is a ticking clock. And Tehran has been given one option and one option alone. You will fully dismantle your nuclear weapons program by a given deadline. So the people who need to be uneasy is not us, it's the murderous mullahs.
I'm not foolish enough to think that you would tell me what the or else is, but are pretty much every option on the table right now, considering how seriously the president takes this threat?
I would. So I try to emphasize this to all of my government colleagues every single day I chair a meeting. The president is the most transparent president in modern history. I mean, he'll stop on the way to Marine One and give a 40-minute press spray from the south lawn of the White House. Watch basically any one of his press interactions, and sooner or later, whether he's, I was there for the swearing in of Alina Habba. Even there, after the swearing in, he took a question about Iran, and he will always say the same thing: "You better comply." Or you don't want to be where you're going to be. It's simply that simple.
The last couple of years of the Biden administration, I listened to this radio host, Sebastian Gorka. You may be familiar with him.
Good voice.
Yeah, it was
voice.
Great show. I taught him everything that he knows.
About the business, by the way, not a joke. This guy, if you ever want to get into podcasting or radio, buy this guy a dinner with a single malt, and he'll tell you all you need to know.
That's very good. I barely remember that dinner. You were very concerned about the jihadists who had crossed our border, who were here, who were living amongst us. You talked about it a lot. It's a very real threat. I suspect that's a priority, and especially whatever connections they have to jihadist groups and terrorist groups around the world. Do you feel like we've got some level of handle on that right now? I feel like there's such an unknown. And again, it's one of those things the media never talks about, but we know they're here. We know they were on the watch list, and we know that Biden let them in.
Let me tell you a fun little story. So Elon Musk has taken a certain portion of this building for his Doge.
This building here?
Building here.
Let's go. No, come on, we can take our.
I don't know if he's here today. You can usually tell because his security detail are quite recognizable. And so I bump into him quite a bit. And it was maybe 2-3 weeks into the administration, and we're both coming down the Navy steps opposite the West Wing. And I had to stop him and, do the obligatory selfie. And then he recognized me and he said, you're the terrorism guy, right? And I said, yes, Mr. Musk. And so he says to me, so what's the biggest threat? What's the biggest problem? And I said, oh, easy, Mr. Musk. The fact that for 4 years we didn't have any borders and we had maybe 12, 14 million illegals let in. If you're a bad guy, you're going to fill that stream with your operatives. And then he said, okay, he sagaciously nodded. And as we're parting ways and I'm going to the West Wing and he's going off in another direction, he shouts at me. And I said to him, but don't worry, Mr. Musk. And I said, why shouldn't I worry? And I said, because we've got Tom Homan on the case. And he shouts to me, Tom Homan, love that guy, straight out of Central Casting. And it's true. I mean, whether it's Governor Noem, whether it's Stephen Miller, whether it's Tom Homan, this is the number one 5-meter threat, and we are dealing with it every day. No better team to get it done.
Yeah, I hear you. I do. But it's also a kind of a frustrating aspect when you've got local law enforcement who should be cooperating on something that fundamental.
Yeah, but Tom doesn't care.
And they won't. Yeah. When you look at Europe right now, when you look at some of the things going on, and you were raised in England, and you see some of the stuff that J.D. Vance was talking about in his speech to Europe and the concerns, do you think that the message is starting to resonate finally? Do you think that they're starting to get it when they see what America can do with regard to threats here at home?
I don't see anything dispositive to the effect that the elite gets it. I don't see that. They might be feeling a little bit of heat, but there's very little to distinguish between left and right in many of these countries. They're just like the blob. They're just the establishment. I think the more important question is, do the voters get it? And I think increasingly, yes, the voters get it. You look at the UK, you look at Italy, you look at other countries. They understand a nation without borders is not a nation. If you're putting people in prison for Facebook posts about COVID, you're probably going to miss the terrorist who's going to be killing people with a knife the next day in some tourist attraction downtown. The question is, will those people be able to exert political pressure before the next election so that you get people who care about their countries? Hopefully that's how it goes, because I believe in representative democracy. This idea of populism is meant to be pejorative today. But for me, your policies are popular. Isn't that the point of a representative republic? I thought it was.
Yeah. Dr. Gorka was very kind and generous to suggest that I could educate him at all in any way on the media. That said, I'm always smarter after I talk to you about things that I am confused about. That's why I ask you, whether it's on the air or not. How does Qatar fit into all of this? Because I keep hearing this country mentioned as, are they a partner? Are they a part of the problem from your perspective or from the White House's perspective? Mm-hmm. Are they an honest player in all of this? Because they seem to have their hands in everything and with regard to the terrorist threats and some of the countries that are supporting those terrorists.
So, of course, Larry couldn't do an interview without a question that would get me in trouble. I'll just say this. Of late, in the last, 93, 94 days, Qatar has been more helpful in many cases, especially as a mediator with regards to difficult players in the region elsewhere. I will say this. I hope they continue in that vein.
I'm just letting the silence sit there for a minute.
The pregnant pause.
China. You have spoken about China quite a bit. And oftentimes when you think about terrorism, you don't think of China. Mm-hmm. But China does finance many people out there who want to do us harm. And actually, we know that they've engaged in cyber attacks against us. I don't know if that's technically terrorism or not. How big a concern is that for you every day?
So it's interesting. I came into this building 8 years ago as a counterterrorism guy, but as soon as you read the president's daily intelligence briefing and you get the clearances, you realize that we'll deal with ISIS as we did. We can deal with Iran, North Korea, even Russia. The number one strategic threat to the United States remains the world's biggest communist nation, which is China. And you don't have to have a clearance like I do. You don't have to take my word for it. Read what they say. Go to the book from 1999 that is now available in English, unclassified online, which is called Unrestricted Warfare, written by two senior PLA colonels, where they say, this is the strategy for taking down the United States. Read Xi Jinping's speeches about how for the 100th anniversary of the revolution, for 2048, there will be one hegemonic nation in the world. It will be communist China, and every other country will be a satrapy, a tributary nation, or defeated. I mean, this is unclassified. So, yeah, China is front and center. And the good thing is the president gets it. The good thing is the man who spent 4 months in prison, so other patriots didn't have to, Peter Navarro, is back in the building in his old office as, senior advisor to the president for all matters trade and China related. So this administration gets it, and we will not allow the world's biggest communist nation to, dethrone democracy and Republican representative government.
It's a beautiful book you've got there. If you don't mind holding it up.
The cover's good. I can't say about anything else in it, but the cover's good.
It's a great book. And of course, it's about all the lies that the media told specifically during the Biden administration and during the 2024 presidential election. You've been here 100 days now.
Yes. Hang on. You've got to take that picture again because I blocked the author some.
Oh, no. Trust me, everybody knows.
No, do it again. Here we go. Take the photograph.
Thanks for that. I appreciate it. You're not allowed to bill me because that's
no. I have one paycheck. USG.
I got to take advantage
Uncle
of this
Sam.
while you're a government
Uncle
employee. Over these 100 days, obviously you've been very busy, and I think that there've been some great successes. And what lies stick out to you when you see them from the media? When you wake, I'm asking everybody this because I know that when you wake up in the morning and you see a story and you know for a fact, this is the great thing about working for the president, and you see a story and you know for a fact that it's a lie because, maybe it's about you or maybe it's about your department. It's like, where did they come up with this stuff? Do you have a favorite, or is
I think right now it has to
the Hexa stuff.
No, the Hexa stuff is just usual. It's just so latest thing. And you mean? You reheated the story from last week ago with another headline. Political, you're such a bunch of useless hacks. You know what? Really?
Yeah.
Maryland father.
That was
that a guy who's actually got MS-13 tattooed on his fist, on his knuckles, is a Maryland father, not a guy who's twice been found by an immigration judge to be here illegally, who is part and parcel, thanks to the knuckle tattoos, a member of a terrorist organization. That guy's a Maryland father. I mean, and
I'm a Maryland father.
Yeah, you're a Maryland father. And then let me tell the story. Last week, I was in my skiff, in my secure compartmented information facility, and I have Newsmax with the volume off in my office. And I saw this woman come up to the podium in the briefing room, and I said, "That's not a colleague of mine. Who's that?" And I turn on the volume, and I catch the end of this heart-wrenching speech from Patty Moran.
Oh, yeah.
The mother of Rachel Moran, who's murdered by an illegal immigrant. I ran from my office all the way to the White House press briefing room because I needed to shake that woman's hand. And I found her and I said, "You don't know who I am, but what you did took courage, your commitment to the truth. You may have saved lives with what you did at that podium." So when you hear the Maryland father, and then you hear Patty Moran, you realize that the people in the mainstream media are pure scum.
Admit it. I know you love your job and you love what you're doing right now, and you're doing it because you're a great patriot. But during that whole storyline and that media narrative, you wished you were on the air just for one day to go after it. Admit it.
I didn't think about it for a millisecond. I'm too busy.
Yeah, right.
Too busy killing jihadis. Can I give you some figures? Outside of Houthis, we have killed 74 jihadis since January the 20th. And thanks to President Trump and his special envoy for hostage affairs, Adam Boehler, we have liberated 46 hostages and illegally detained U.S. citizens in 94 days.
95% of them we never even knew about.
Of course.
Because nobody said a damn thing.
Right.
Finally, you're my brother in Christ, and you're a Catholic, and we're of course mourning the loss of the Holy Father, even though there were some things that were challenging and frustrating about him. I keep saying he had a couple of tough acts to follow. We had two giant popes.
Somebody said, the Catholic said to me, "What are the odds?" After St. John Paul II and Ratzinger. What are the odds you're going to get another?
Exactly.
Right.
Do you have your eye on anybody as you?
I don't have, not names. I just would dearly love it to be an African bishop, an African cardinal, because the church is just resurrected on the African continent, and they understand the truth, and they won't be obsessed with the worldly things. They'll be obsessed with one thing, with God and the truth. So maybe it's time for from an African pope. What do you think?
Yeah, Augustine did a pretty good job.
I think he did.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, the church began where? North Africa. Let's talk about it. Middle East and North Africa. So let's hear it for maybe a cardinal from a new demographic.
We'll be watching the conclave.
Yeah.
Sebastian Gorka, thank you so much, sir. Dr. Gorka.
God bless you guys.
It's always good to see you.
Say hi to that reprobate plant with an E.
Oh, Christopher?
Yeah,
Christopher. You're around. Yeah, I'll do my best. We love it when we get to meet the people that we help make go viral, but she didn't need our help. Tricia McLaughlin was a superstar for DHS, speaking on behalf of our Homeland Security, and you have to deal with all these questions. This was about the Maryland man, right? Our favorite Maryland man.
The Maryland man, the media darling, the very innocent man that the media claims. Yes, all about him.
Have you noticed how they don't want to talk about that story anymore? It just sort of died. It's like, wait a second, he's still down there. It's like, I guess there's a few Democrats down, but this is a great example. First of all, thanks for letting us into your house here, and thanks for letting us talk to you about this stuff.
Thanks for having me.
This narrative, this is what the media does. They find this story and they just decide that you guys are the bad guys and you've got to be doing something wrong. Is that frustrating for you that you spend so much of your time, instead of proactively talking about the great stuff Homeland Security is doing right now under Secretary Noem, instead you're reacting to lies? You're reacting to false stories all the time.
I think, of course, there's frustration there because we are making the American people safer. Secretary Noem and President Trump have created the most secure border in American history in less than 100 days. But I think that there is something gratifying about the media and the Democrats jumping on this narrative that this is this innocent Maryland father, and in reality, he is anything but. Not only did his wife have written testimony that he beat her, but when he was initially arrested in 2019, he was decked out in MS-13 garb.
Right.
He was with two members of MS-13. He had drugs and rolls of money on him. We have intelligence that further shows he's MS-13. And oh, by the way, he was involved in human trafficking on a 3-day journey, allegedly from Texas to Maryland with 8 individuals, and yet no luggage, Larry. What does that tell you? That is textbook human trafficking.
And by the way, Senator Van Hollen deciding to ignore all of that. He doesn't believe it. Well, these are Prince George's County, Maryland police officers in his state that he's basically saying got it wrong, or even worse, we're lying about this man.
And seeing Rachel Morin's mother from the press briefing podium, and just how raw that was, but what a courageous job she did that day as the man who's supposed to be representing her and her family, and her late daughter is off in El Salvador doing the bidding of an MS-13 gang member. It's disgusting.
You know, you point out the human trafficking part. He was stopped in Tennessee. He had, 7 other people in the vehicle with him?
Yeah.
8, thank you. That story, because it was revealed, actually displayed even more about what happened during the Biden administration, because the police in Tennessee saw that something was up, called DHS, called FBI, and what did they say? Take a picture and let them go. What would happen under Secretary Noem and under FBI Director Patel if that happened today?
I mean, they're illegal aliens, first of all, out. And that's why we're telling people, if you are in this country illegally, you should leave now, because if not, we will find you, we will arrest you, and we will lock you up and deport you.
Yeah.
Under Secretary Noem, there's no question. If there's alleged human trafficking at the hands of illegal aliens, they're getting locked up. There's no question.
So Secretary Noem has spoken about how the officers on the ground and the people in the front lines, they kind of get a kick out of her getting dressed up and going out and kicking ass with them. And I think that's pretty fun. How much of that, though, because when you do that, the video is going to go out and news organizations are going to run with the video. How important is that's part of the plan, isn't it? You want to send the message that we're coming to get you, so you better leave on your own.
Larry, this is a message of deterrence. As we've said before, leave now and criminal aliens stay out. I think that, first of all, our law enforcement on the ground with Secretary Noem, them seeing her in action, these guys have been hamstrung for the last 4 years by President Biden, told don't do your job, or heck, there could be consequences for you if you're arresting people. So she's actually empowering them, saying, what can I do to make you safer? What can I do to make you more successful? What can we do to get these arrest numbers up and get deportation numbers up? That's what the American people and our law enforcement should be saying. And oh, by the way, to illegal immigrants in this country, get the heck out, because we'll hunt you down.
What can you do with these sanctuary cities? Last question. I know that you speak on behalf of the secretary, but I know that this is a major issue for her and for the administration, where you've got cities, counties, states who are basically protecting people who have broken the law. And that only means more law breaking in the communities.
Yeah, I think we're looking at options with DOJ, with Attorney General Bondi, because they are slowing us down. There's just no question. And they're also becoming a safe harbor for these criminal illegal aliens. Yeah. MS-13, Tren de Aragua, actual terrorists, whether it be from Iran or other places that in the last 4 years, they've come with impunity to this country.
Do you have a favorite J.D. Vance meme?
Oh, gosh. They're almost so good.
I know they are good.
I think the staring at the debate is just, it's a classic.
That's probably the best. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you give us that one? Here's the camera. Give us. There it is. Tricia McLaughlin kicking butt over at DHS. Everyone at DHS is kicking butt right now. That's why we have elections. Well, we talk about all the changes that have happened in this White House compared to the last White House, but I'm going to be controversial. I think the greatest change has been in the press office, communications department. And joining us right now, Ms. Kelly.
I'm a little biased, but I agree with you.
Yeah, exactly. Deputy Press Secretary. And you guys, first of all, you look like you're having fun.
Oh, my gosh. So much fun. Yeah. I mean, it's really fun. Of course, as you know, we're so excited to host folks like you, local media from all across the country, for events like this and really leading the most accessible and transparent press operation in history and being part of all of the things that the president is accomplishing. So it's truly so much fun.
How important has this sort of staking your claim on that room, that press office, the briefing room? Because people assumed that the media runs things in there, like it's their room or something, and they've sort of taken that attitude.
Right. Well, it's really interesting because you have organizations, I'm sure you're alluding to, like WACA, who basically led this cartel of media, which totally excluding so many independent media outlets, organizations with massive audiences from participating and covering the president, which is so counterintuitive. And of course, this president, big part of his victory and a big part of why he's here was his outreach to non-legacy media, to diverse audiences, not traditionally reached out to by presidential campaigns. And so it's really been exciting to not exclude, but include, more voices and bring in new folks to the briefing room, launching the new media seat, which Caroline Leavitt is, of course, a wonderful boss and really spearheaded that effort, restoring 400 press passes. So it's really fun to be part of this era of accessibility and transparency for this White House briefing room.
Yeah, and also just in terms of who gets to ask a question, I mean, are you surprised at how the legacy media, they still sort of fall into the same rut with the same kind of patterns of questions? Whenever you guys spread it out to the outside of the room, then things get interesting. You actually start hearing different perspectives and different questions. I mean, that's what it's about.
That's right. And they're more in line with public opinion. I mean, you look at issues like Abrego Garcia, an illegal migrant criminal who is deported to his home in El Salvador. And yet you have the legacy media really standing up for illegal immigrants from El Salvador, over the rights of American citizens, over, people like Rachel Morin, who was brutally killed by an illegal immigrant. I mean, they're so vastly out of touch with, I think, public opinion and what the American people believe. And so it's really important that we encourage those diverse voices because it's about bringing in those new perspectives that were a big part of why this president is here and really are, really in touch with the American people.
Yeah. So in the first 100 days, have any of them privately off the record say, guys, we really appreciate it. For the first time, we actually get to talk to the president. We hear back to them compared to Biden, right?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, and so our offices are all right outside the briefing room. And so this is the first job I've ever had in communications where reporters can actually come in my office, which is a little new for me. But of course, privately, they are all really excited about the opportunity to ask the president questions. Of course, you had Biden, who was bunkered down and
Does it frustrate you that it's privately, though? Why don't they say that? Why when they go back to the studio and say, hey, Wolf, say what you will, but we're getting more access than we've ever gotten here. And if you care about the First Amendment and freedom of the press, this is a great White House.
It's true. I think they all just kind of fear each other. They fear the Correspondents Association cartel. I don't really know what it is. And you have some independent journalists, Daily Caller does this where they'll kind of pull back the curtain about some of the things that the journalists are saying. But it's true. I don't know why they don't say it publicly because they are privately very happy. They're getting more access to the president than they've ever had. And we're truly running the most transparent administration in history.
This is my book. It's Shameless Liars.
Oh, yes.
It's about how Trump defeated the legacy media and made them irrelevant. Perfect. Hold it up for the camera because it's an inside joke with my audience because I shamelessly plug that book, but that's for you.
Oh, fantastic. I'm excited.
But it's all about. But while we're talking, what's been the worst lie in your opinion during these first 100? I know we're talking about the great success of the first 100 days of the Trump presidency, but in tandem with that, all the lies that the media has been telling about you. So what's the one when you woke up and say, "Are you kidding me? This is just fake."
I think There's so many draft executive orders that I read about like every day, and it's hard to pick one, but I'm like, what draft executive order? So I'm like, any bum off the street, I guess, can just write up a document and say, this is a draft executive order.
Right.
And I'm looking at the calendar. I'm like, I've never heard of this thing in my life. So it's very interesting, the sourcing that comes out of this media. But again, I think it's about the lies, and it's also about just the total distance from reality. The Borrego Garcia example is a great one.
That was good.
You know, the Signal stuff is a great example. I mean, we have long said this is an approved app for government use, and yet the media is just obsessed with it.
When you got your job at the White House, they gave you a official government device. Was Signal loaded up into it?
Signal is loaded up on a lot of government devices.
Right. Yeah.
So like, it's an approved app for government use.
Of course it is.
And yet the media is just obsessed with it. So I think it's great to have folks like you here who are actually covering the truth, who are promoting all this president is doing to deliver on his campaign promises, which is a whole lot of things.
So, you know, Signal was developed by a nonprofit foundation called the Signal Foundation. Do you know who the chairman of the board of the Signal Foundation is? The CEO of NPR.
Oh, really?
Ms. Maher. Yeah.
Really? Okay. So I'm learning something new.
You might want to take that one with you. I think it's a great revelation.
Got it.
Well, yeah, keep having a good time. You know, seriously, because this can be a tough time. It's hard enough to work in a White House. Mm-hmm. And then you have to work in the media and you have to deal with reporters. But you guys, it really looks like you like each other and you enjoy the job.
Well,
are you faking it?
Oh, no. I mean, we follow the lead of our boss. I mean, it's fun coming off the campaign. The president, of course, is known for his very busy schedule. The man does not sleep. He is always going. He's always really excited about what he's doing. And so it's really cool to be part of an administration where, you know, the leadership at the top is so excited about what we're doing. We're getting to do fun stuff, delivering on our promises every day that are, you know, in line with what the American people have been waiting for. Right. So when we have a great team, I, of course, want to shout out Caroline Leavitt, who's a great boss. And so it's truly an honor on all sides.
All right. And who's your least favorite person in the briefing room? Come on.
Oh, gosh. Well, maybe we'll talk about it when the mics are off.
There you go. See, that's a good answer. Anna Kelly, White House Press Office. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Official title, Deputy Press Secretary, which is a big deal. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Imagine becoming a cabinet secretary in the Trump administration and your first job is to eliminate the cabinet. That would be weird, but Secretary Linda McMahon is actually pretty excited about it. It's the Department of Education, and we've been promised for a lot of decades. I know you know that, Secretary. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you very much, all the way back to Ronald Reagan.
Right, exactly. And it was only a few years old back then.
That's right. And it just, it was established in 1980. And Ronald Reagan thought that it had way too much bureaucracy and he wanted to shut it down, but he wasn't successful in convincing Congress. So that's part of the job that I have. I have to convince Congress that the best thing to do for the students in our country is to shut down the Department of Education. And I think the only way I can do that is to have them as a partner, to be transparent with them, and to understand that what I'm looking to hand off to the states will make education better, and that they can get on board with that.
I was hoping, I spoke with Chairman Smith of the Ways and Means Committee, and I was hoping that through the reconciliation process, they might be able to get this done. He told me that that's not within the rules. I'm still not sure about that. But what does the legislative process look like here?
I think, well, at this point, the legislative process really just, I think, me keeping Congress informed as to what I'm doing. Now, obviously, they will have to eventually vote, but a couple of bills are being put through to shut down the department. I mean, almost as soon as I was on board, there was a bill that was put through by, I think, a senator from Illinois. Mm-hmm. And I may have that wrong, but we can double check that. But so there are a couple of bills that are put forth, and but I don't think they will pass because Congress doesn't know what we are planning and what we are trying to do.
Yeah.
And until they're assured that they are acting in the best interest of their constituents, then they're not going to vote to shut down the department.
So in the meantime, you're able, from your end, to basically just sort of reallocate what the Department of Education is doing. And you've already done that a bit, right, with student loans and other things.
Yes, with the student loans, we're working with Treasury to restart the collection program. But I will also be working with HHS to see what possibilities there are potentially there for the IDEA funding for handicapped and special needs children, and also for some Title I. There are also some programs that are in education that are best suited for labor. So we're having those conversations as well with our new Secretary of Labor. So, the workforce development program, short-term Pell Grants, those kind of things. And so by the time we get through the different departments and where I think these educational programs will best fit, I think we'll have a really good plan.
I'm a parent of 2 special needs children, by the way, and my youngest is graduating high school this year. He has a independent education protocol, an IEP, because he's on the autism spectrum. He's nonverbal. During COVID, during the lockdown, when our children were forced to use a laptop and sit isolated in our kitchen, I heard nothing from these Democrats about special needs children and how critically important it was that they get what they need and get what they deserve. I would love for you to speak to that point, because now all they do is talk about special needs children and how you and the president are leaving them out on the curb.
Well, I think that's a big talking point for them, and they really have no idea what they're talking about, because the president clearly said that the funding for these programs is not going to stop. The funding will
I would argue it's better routed through HHS than it is through education.
And it could be better routed, and that's where it was before. I've also talked to Secretary Kennedy about that, and he's very anxious to take on those programs. Very willing to do that, but the funding goes directly to the states.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that the states have the most funds available to them, to get more paraprofessionals in the classroom, to make sure they have more technology as they need to help special needs kids. And so that's what we'll be focusing on.
Parents are afraid. Parents hear this stuff. They see these things. They see Randy Weingarten and the teachers union going out there, scaring them purposefully. How hard is it to cut through and get the message out? And especially when the media doesn't seem to be working on your side.
Well, I heard Randy Weingarten say that the president wanted to get rid of education.
Yes.
Now, if that doesn't speak for itself, clearly this is
well. She's like Anthony Fauci. See, she is education, just like Fauci was science, right?
So, the president's goal is to make sure that every child in the country has equal access to an excellent education. He wants to see these scores go up. He's incredibly supportive of local education. He believes, as I do, that the best education is closest to the child.
Right.
So parents, teachers, principals, school administrators, they understand what is really needed, and they understand what is best in their community. Because really, we want to graduate students who have the opportunity to either go on for college, if that's where they need to be, or if not, to have given them some training in school so that they skill-based workforce, so that they can move into the economy and into the workforce and start making a living for themselves.
Was it a mistake to move toward national standards a couple of decades ago and sort of, instead of resisting the Department of Education, sort of putting through these standards that made, you hear it all the time, the teachers were teaching to the test and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think, and you can over test. That is for sure. In fact, one of the things that we are looking to streamline is the money that goes into research and testing at Department of Education. Now, I believe that we do need national testing, and that's very important. So streamlining doesn't mean get rid of all of those different programs, because we do need the national testing, because you have to compare apples to apples. And I believe you can't see how you're really doing, because states can, they can skew their own results and that sort of thing. So you do need a national standard for that. But when we looked at core curriculum and those kinds of programs, it wasn't suitable for every particular state and school.
I'd love for you to speak to the protection of women's sports. I know that has been a big priority of yours and the president's, and you are getting resistance. And right in our backyard, Fairfax County, Virginia, has already announced that they're going to not only resist their governor, but also resist the president on the mandates. What can be done there? People see that and it's like, well, what's the point of having rules? What's the point of laying these things out if you can just be ignored and defied?
Well, the hammer that the Department of Education has is that we can cut funding for those schools that are not in compliance. I mean, it is the law. Title IX is the law. And in spite of some of the things that the Biden administration tried to do, courts threw it out, vacated, the Biden statute. And so it is now, it reverts, to where it was before the Biden administration. And President Trump has made very clear, not only in accordance with the law, but with his own EO, that women play in women's sports and men play in men's sports, and that's the way it's going to be. So we have the defunding club, if you will, to make sure that we can let schools know that we mean what we say.
Club and hammer. You just can't, break the wrestling thing, can you? These all sound like characters from a Saturday night fight. The president speaks about school choice a lot, and seems to be a huge supporter of the idea. Is that something that can be directed at the federal level or encouraged from the federal level? If there are parents who are out there who are looking for options, what can you do through the Department of Education to get that done?
Well, certainly encouraged at the federal level. I don't think we should pass federal law that says, that every state should have school choice and how it should be administered, because I do think
that falls into the trap,
then
right?
You fall into the trap. But I think that we can provide information and best practices to schools to let them learn how successful that has proven in many cities and states to have school choice. No parent should have to look at their child and know that they have to leave them in a failing school. That's why the president has been so supportive of school choice with vouchers or other means, school savings accounts, because students should have that opportunity to move where they can be successful.
Who do you think's doing it right in this country? What state do you look to saying, yeah, this is a good model for the rest of the nation?
Well, I think it's a work in progress, but we have seen success already. Many schools in Florida. We've seen success in Iowa. Texas just passed last week after a 2-year or 3-year try to get educational savings accounts passed, which means that you can take scholarship money to move a child to a different school. So they're very anxious to see how that'll work for them.
Yeah, and we're always told we're a global economy. When you look around the world, when you look at other education systems from our international partners or even our adversaries, do you see something that they're doing right that we could maybe adopt here and make it American?
One of the things that I will be doing is learning more about those systems. So I don't have that exact system to tell you today, but
you've had plenty to do in these first 100 days.
Yeah.
But in these first 100 days, I mean, what is the biggest? Go ahead. What's the biggest success here in your first 100 days from your eyes? Because a lot of what you've had to do, like I said, is sort of streamline, dismantle, get rid of people who were not people, but getting rid of programs that were wasteful. What are you hanging your hat on right now?
Well, I think we have done a lot in these first 100 days to really start getting the message out about what the president's goals are. And I've already traveled to several states to meet with different administrators. I've talked to several governors who are very interested in how they can be very helpful in their states. We have, just on a practical basis, as you mentioned, we've cut half of our staff already. We've closed satellite offices, district offices, and consolidated some into the main office here in D.C., and we'll continue to do that. So I think we've had great strides in this first 100 days.
All right. Well, Secretary McMahon, I appreciate you joining us. I know it's a busy day and a busy, exciting week here as we acknowledge the first 100 days, and your work has just begun. It has really just begun, but hopefully my legacy will be to have made President Trump the education president that has made education of students in the United States some of the best in the world. You literally hope to be the last Secretary of Education. That is my goal, to be the last secretary. Have you already thought about the next job? Is that too soon? No, I'm not worried about that. This one's plenty big for me. Thank you. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.